Hey, what's going on guys? Alex here behind the camera with TFL Bike, and in this video we're going to be doing a full review on this 2023 BMW R1250 RS, a really cool premium luxury sport tourer from BMW. And they made a number of changes to this bike for 2023, although it is mostly unchanged and pretty similar to the outgoing model. And yeah, we'll get it out on the road. We're gonna take it on the highway a little bit, talk about all the features. Let's jump right into the review. All right, let's first talk about the style and the design of this bike, because I think it is really good looking. And most of the time I'm not a fan of an all black motorcycle. I usually don't think that's the best look out there, but this one has won me over and I think it looks really, really nice. So let's talk about it. Definitely a sporty look and matches a lot of the other sport bikes in BMW's lineup, with kind of this angular nose section and the symmetrical headlights here. So definitely matches the rest of the bikes in the lineup. I also really like the gold forks on this bike. They kind of match the Brembo brake calipers, although they're not exactly the same color, but you do get a little bit of contrast there, especially with this mostly black motorcycle, and I think that looks pretty good. Speaking of mostly black, you can see it says, or kind of says, triple black here on the side. This does have the triple black package, so there's a few different colors you can get this in. You can also get it in, you know, the classic BMW white, blue, and red, but this one looks really good in the all black, especially because it has the option 719 billet engine cases here, and there's a number of different option 719 parts you can buy for this bike. Now there's also a number of different packages on this motorcycle, which I'll get to in a second, that give you some other appearance items. I also really like this sort of silver inlay on the top of the tank here, which sort of breaks up the look of the black. But yeah, all in all, just a really sharp looking motorcycle, and yeah, I think they really killed the look on it. They didn't change too much. If you look at the 2022 and the 2023 side by side, all the bodywork is pretty much the same. But like I said, the triple black option looks really cool. And really, I think my favorite part is the option 719 billet engine cases. All right, time to get this big sport tour out on the road. So throw a leg over here, rock it up off the side stand. Side stand is really far forward on this bike. Adjust our mirrors here, which make me laugh. This is such a good looking bike, and these goofy looking round mirrors look like they're straight out of the 90s. Start it up here, screen comes to life, and there we go. Right on startup, you get that little side to side motion you come to expect from the Boxster. And even while you're revving it, loves to kind of dance back and forth. Let's do it. Beat this car out here, do a little acceleration run. Definitely moves. 136 horsepower, good amount. And I also really like that when you're kind of pushing it through the gears like that, I don't have enough space here, but you'll see it as I'm riding. There's a little white flashing light, or a big white flashing light at the top of the dash there. That's an adjustable shift indicator. So if you go back to the first ride video that Case did on this bike, that thing was flashing all the time, and I went in and adjusted and moved the start RPM a little higher up to about 7,000 RPM, so it doesn't flash quite as aggressively anymore, but I still like that feature a lot. We've got our suspension in road mode. I'm also in the road ride mode as well, which I think is where most people are going to be most of the time. This bike has a lot of engine braking. I really like that. When you roll off throttle, I'm in second gear right now, I'm not touching the brakes at all. And the bike did a really good job of slowing me down to about 10 miles an hour before I had to get on the brakes. Even just sitting here at a red light, man, this bike feels so refined. It just kind of putters along sitting here at the red light. Man, I love the feel of this Boxer. And I love the way the Sport Tours handle. You sit so high up on them and they're nice and heavy, so they're real stable, and you can really lean it into a corner and feel a lot more comfortable on a heavy bike like this than I would on, you know, a more traditional sport bike that maybe is 100 pounds lighter than this. I used to have a Tracer 900, which was my sort of daily commuter bike into work, and I loved taking that up into the mountains because the bars are nice and wide. Just like on this bike, you got a decently wide handlebar, and it just makes it so nice and easy to throw it into corners, and the whole bike feels like it wants to go with you. I love Sport Tours so much. Really good torque out of this engine too. 106 foot-pounds. It really starts to pick up around 5,000 RPM. And if you stay kind of steady with the throttle and leave it at a constant position, you can really feel that torque start to ramp up as you go through. And yeah, I think this bike has probably the perfect amount of power. I mean, that's a really good amount of power to get you moving, just like I did, pulling out of a lane, getting around a few cars. I really just can't get over how smooth and refined this bike feels. I know I'm repeating myself, but there's certain times when you hop on a motorcycle and it just makes you feel a certain way. And that's the main thing I'm getting out of this bike, is it just feels so good. It just, as a package together, feels perfectly matched. There's a lot of bikes that feel like they've got a whole hell of a lot of motor, but the chassis doesn't like staying on the ground, or you know, they feel like they're really solidly built but the transmission sucks, or they feel really solid but they're just too slow, they don't have enough power. And this, everything about this package feels good. The transmission is one of the best feeling transmissions I've clicked through on a bike. You don't wonder whether or not you made it into the gear you were trying to go to. It just works. You've got a nice smooth motor that doesn't vibrate you to pieces around town. Even sitting at a red light, it's nice and comfortable. Crack the throttle, you got plenty of power. And then you've got big beefy brakes and a nice electronically controlled suspension to support this big heavy bike. So literally every component on this motorcycle is well matched to all the other components that surround it. And that's part of the reason you buy a BMW, right? You're paying a little bit extra compared to some of the competition with this bike, but you get a bike that was just so thoughtfully engineered, because that's what the Germans like to do. And yeah, this is just a pleasure to ride. And still fun too, still plenty sporty. Getting onto the highway here, which is where this bike really belongs, but even on the on-ramp, you kind of lean off the bike a little bit. Even though it's got a Boxer and it's a big heavy bike, it's still definitely fun to push around. Powering this motorcycle is a big Boxer engine. As you can see, it sticks out way to the side there. That's a classic BMW engine configuration. 1254cc Boxer. It makes 136 horsepower and 105 pound-feet of torque. 6-speed transmission, and it is a shaft drive, which is pretty cool. Definitely like that. Not a whole lot of maintenance you need to do there. And yeah, pretty powerful engine, really smooth engine, nice and refined. I really have enjoyed riding this around. And yeah, it's not the sportiest engine in the world. It's not, you know, a super slow, sluggish engine, but I think it's a good balance of, you know, performance and also refinement, being nice and relaxed and smooth, which is exactly what you want in a sport tour like this that you're gonna put a ton of miles on. Now the bike itself weighs 536 pounds, which I think sounds heavier on paper than it actually is, especially on a sport tour like this. So much of the weight sits up high, and you sit up high as a rider too, so even though you do have a decent amount of weight, it always flicks into the corners very easily, and it's something I talk about on the road. But yeah, I don't mind the weight at all on this bike. You do have a 4.7 gallon tank, so pretty good fuel capacity for doing those longer rides as well. And something I really like about sport tours, most of them in general, are that they most of the time have adjustable seats, and this is no exception here. So you can see there's sort of this cutout in front of the seat which will allow you to slide it even more further forward and down a little bit, so it is in one of the higher positions right now, but you do get a lot of adjustability out of the seat. 29.9 inches in its lowest height, up to 33 inches in its highest height. So depending on your dimensions as a rider, you can really dial that in, and that's a pretty good amount of adjustability. 3.1 inches of different seat heights is really good and more range than most bikes give you, and I think that's pretty good. All right, now that we're on the highway, I'm just kind of cruising in 6th gear, about 70 miles an hour. Could go faster, but keeping it a little slower so the audio is somewhat understandable. But about 65, 70 miles an hour in 6th gear. We're under 4,000 RPM. And it's honestly hard to tell that this bike is even running. It is so quiet, especially with this big exhaust on it, and just barely makes any vibrations. I could feel a little bit of vibration through the foot pegs, but really none at all through the handlebars or the seat. And it's a nice comfortable seating position too. I've been on plusher seats. The seat could be a little softer. It's fine for most riders, I think, but if you're an iron butt and you want to do hours and hours of riding a day, you might want to upgrade to a little more of a plusher seat. But no vibrations come through. It's just a little bit of a stiff seat. So yeah, you could really last on this for a long time. And especially because I can reach down here, pull up this windscreen a little bit to give me a little more wind protection, which is hitting the top of my helmet a little bit. But for the most part, it's keeping me out of the wind, nice and protected. And we've also got cruise control, which I actually haven't used yet, so let's see how hard it is to figure out. I'm guessing I flip that over to on, and I'm going to try pulling back, yeah, to set it. And I'm riding hands-free now. I can tap forward, set my speed. I'm set at 75 right now. This is great. Now you can take a little stretch or whatever, stretch your back out, stretch your arms out. And yeah, this is awesome. You gotta steer with your legs and your upper body. But I've tried this on a lot of bikes where I just kind of take my hands off and ride. And it's easy to do on a lot of bikes. But like, I just bought an XSR 900 and I'll do a video on that shortly. But on that bike, I definitely reach for the bars a little sooner than I do on this. And this bike, even through this corner, granted a mild corner, I can ride through the whole thing very comfortably. And part of the reason is this bike is so heavy that it's really stable. So I don't need to put a lot of steering input in with my body to keep this bike upright. It naturally just kind of wants to ride straight in a straight line. And that's what makes a bike like this so good for the highway. Even though we're riding at 75 miles an hour, it just cuts through the wind. It's big, it has a big footprint, it stays where you want it to on the road, and that leads to a lot less rider fatigue, which is really nice. So yeah, that's impressive. This bike is so stable and so happy
just cruising for a long time. This highway has a lot of bumps on it too, a lot of gnarly expansion joints, and this suspension is just soaking them up super nicely. I also really like how comfortable this is. The tank, at least for my body, seems about perfect. I'm able to squeeze the tank with my knees without actually squeezing it too much. So I'm not really working my muscles to squeeze the tank, but the tank's just kind of in the perfect spot where my knees line up to it, and it feels just perfect. We don't have to just cruise though. Like I said before, downshift a couple times. And you've got not the sportiest, fastest bike in the world, but a bike with a great amount of power that's still a blast to ride. And also, you probably just saw me merge over into the express lane. It's one of the nice parts about Colorado. They let, not on all the toll roads, but on a lot of them, they let motorcycles use the express lanes free of charge, which when there's a ton of traffic is a really nice perk of being on two wheels. Also, this has BMW's Shift Assist Pro, so I did use the clutch to shift through the gears back there, merging into the express lane, but you don't have to. You can just click through them. And wide open throttle, you can do your upshifts. I'm gonna drop this windscreen down just to see how big of a difference it makes, because it doesn't have a whole ton of adjustability, but it actually makes a significant difference. I don't know if you can hear that, but with it in the up position, it pretty much keeps all of my helmet out of the wind. I know there's a little bit in the wind because I can hear it rushing over my helmet, but I can't really feel it. Whereas in the down position, I feel it on my neck, so I know my whole head is just being blasted with air. So that's also going to help you last longer. Less strain on your neck means less neck pain and more time on the bike.
One thing BMW is really good at with their motorcycles is offering a ton of different packages so you can get different options, and that's something not a lot of other brands do. So you can get a dynamic package to give you some more pro ride modes. The bike does come with a few standard ride modes, but you get more out of the dynamic package. You also get drag torque control and the Shift Assistant Pro out of that package as well. There's also a comfort package, which gives you heated grips, a heated seat, keyless ride system, and this really good looking chrome exhaust on the other side of the bike, which probably won't look super good after you put a ton of miles on it. I don't know, maybe it'll hold up better than I'm expecting, but I do love the look of that, especially on this all black bike. That giant chrome exhaust really, I think, brightens up the look of the bike. So that's pretty cool. You also have a tour package available. That'll give you these side case mounts, so you can put some luggage on the side of the bike. You also get cruise control as part of that package there as well. And you also get this mount right here for a navigation, so an integrated nav mount, as well as a center stand. I have the bike on the side stand right now, but it is nice to have that center stand option, especially if you're doing work on your rear tire and whatnot. And then beyond that, you also have the dynamic ESA package, which gives you the dynamic suspension with load compensation. So when you load up weight, it'll automatically adjust the suspension for the weight you have on the bike. It also has auto damping. And then there's all the different options, 719 billet packages I talked about as well. This bike has all of those packages I just mentioned, so it's loaded to the moon, and the price reflects that, which I will get to at the end of the video. But it is really cool that all those options are available, and you can really make this bike as technologically advanced as you want. All right, let's talk about some of the controls. Because this bike has the comfort package, it does have keyless ride. So you just keep this little key fob in your pocket and you use the button to control the bike. One of the questions I had was the steering lock, and it still does have a steering lock. All you do is turn the bars where they should be, pretty much all the way to the left, just like on every other bike, and then hold, and you hear that little actuator there, and now the bars are locked. To unlock them, you just hold again, and it will unlock, and now they are free to be turned. There you go. Now if we just press the button once, it will turn our TFT screen on. BMW does some of the nicest looking screens in the industry. Everything is just very well laid out, nice and colorful. It's got a nice anti-glare, anti-reflective coating on it. And yeah, everything's just big and in your face and super easy to see. So I love their system. It's controlled with this little wheel here, which not only spins, but also has sort of a back and next option as well. There's also a menu option here, so we can go through and kind of adjust what's in the top section there by pressing the top of the menu button. You can also back out to the main menu by hitting the bottom button, and then go through your different modes here, navigation, media. You can of course pair your phone, which I have not done yet. Get a bunch of info up there. And then, you know, you can go into different screens like My Vehicle and see a ton of different parameters. BMW gives you so much info here, including tire pressures. This does have tire pressure monitoring. So very impressive system with all the stuff that can be done here. You've also got controls for your heated grips and heated seats right there. The rear passenger actually has their own heated seat controller with this little rocker switch, so they can control their own heated seat from the back seat. And let's back out of this menu here. You've also got a couple other buttons over on this side. One of them is for your dynamic suspension, so you can switch it between the different modes there. And then we also have our different ride modes here as well. So dynamic, that's one of the pro riding modes. Eco is one of the new riding modes that does come standard on all these bikes, but last year's bike didn't have the Eco mode, or didn't come standard with it at least. And then you have rain and road as well. All in all, really, really good system from BMW on the tech side of things. Really impressed with that. And just makes owning one of these bikes that much nicer. And then I did just want to mention the few things that now come standard on this bike. So dynamic traction control used to be an option. It is now standard on all models of the R1250 RS. You also have ABS Pro, which is, you know, a super advanced cornering, lean sensitive ABS system. That's also now standard. And dynamic brake control, also standard as well. So they're bringing some of the safety tech, some of the more premium tech assistant features lower down on the more basic entry-level models to give you more bang for your buck. Pricing stayed the same on this bike from last year to the new 2023 models. So even though it's the same price, you get more features and more value out of it, which is always good to see. There's also new LED turn signals for 2023, and like I just mentioned, that Eco mode is now standard.
I love the suspension on this bike after riding it for a good amount of time now. Suspension is one of the most impressive parts about it. There's a lot of bikes where if you come off throttle really hard or get on the brakes really hard, the bike kind of shimmies side to side a little before it finds its happy spot in the middle and goes down the road, and I don't get that feeling at all with this bike. Everything's just really predictable. And it doesn't even dive too much either. You've got a really advanced suspension system on this bike, so even when you jab the brakes, it dives a little bit, but it's all super controlled. And speaking of brake dive, the brakes are really good. You get nice beefy Brembos on this bike. And a lot of gear on this bike too. A lot of weight, a lot of fuel. And, you know, right now I don't have luggage or a passenger, but this is a bike that you're really likely to see that kind of stuff on, and I have no doubt that this would just bring you to a stop in no time. Overall, I am really impressed with this bike. I get to ride a lot of motorcycles at this job, and I'm really fortunate to get to do that. And there's not a whole lot of bikes that I really don't have any interest on, and then I get on them and I'm like, man, I could see myself owning one of these. And not to say that I didn't have any interest in this bike before I started riding it. I mean, it's a sport tour and I like sport tours, but yeah, it's just not a bike that I would go into a showroom and gravitate towards. I'd probably gravitate towards, you know, more of the S1000R or something like that. But yeah, I just really fell in love with this bike in the short time I've been riding it. And if I were looking for a sport tourer, this would be real close to the top of my list. I would definitely consider it. This engine is just really something special, and I know BMW has been doing boxers like this for a long time, which is part of what makes this so special. Is it goes back years and years and years. But man, this bike really put a smile on my face, and it's just the perfect balance of sportiness and just a quality motorcycle.
Pricing on this R1250 RS starts at $15,695. This one, having all those packages being pretty much fully loaded, is just shy of $21,000, which is a lot of money for a bike, but I think there's a lot of motorcycles sitting in front of us right now, and I think it is definitely worth that price tag they are asking. This has pretty much every rider assistance tech feature you could want. One of the best screens or systems in the industry as far as a dashboard goes. Really good styling, really good engine, and this is a bike I could spend a lot of time on, ride for many hours each day and never get sick of. And this is a bike that can really do it all for you. You could do some spirited riding on this, take it up into the mountains, drive it cross country, or sorry, ride it cross country. This could be a do-it-all bike and really be the only motorcycle in your garage. So is it expensive? Yes. Could you buy a lot of other motorcycles for the same money? Yes. Are those other motorcycles going to be as premium, as nice looking, as well put together, and have as much thought put into the design and build process? Probably not. So there you have it. I'm a big fan of this bike. Really like the styling, really like the way it rides, and the tech is just top notch. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Check out alltfl.com so you don't miss anything, and we will catch you in the next video.